Ooh, get your ass up. What the fuck? So today we're talking about Kirtland, Ohio cult leader Jeffrey Lundgren. I'm probably going to call him Lundy because for some reason Lundgren is hard for me to fucking pronounce over and over again. Um, I'm going. Nah, it doesn't matter. Get the lo-fi on. Awesome. I have a slightly different setup this time, so hopefully this works out. I gotta sit a little bit farther over. Alright, cool, maybe. I'm supposed to sit farther back. I had a whole thing set up where I knew exactly where I was sitting, but of course not. Okay. Awesome. So I have the pictures set up over here. That is the Avery family. This is Jeffrey Lundgren. Shut up. Don't you make a sound. My phone. Okay. It makes me more nervous knowing that my face is more up. But I'm not going to have the Wikipedia page up anymore. I'm going to have these pictures up. Hopefully I'm pointing to the right side. I know it's probably not the right side. It's over here or something. Jeffrey Don Lundgren, May 30th, 1950 to October 24th, 2006, was an American self-proclaimed prophet and mass murderer who, on April 17th, 1989, killed 5 people in Kirtland, Ohio. Lundgren led a Latter-day Saint movement-based cult and interpreted scripture using an unconventional method that he described as catastic. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Anyone cares? This is going to be in the shop tomorrow on my Etsy shop. I just finished it today. Just took pictures of it earlier. And interpreted scripture using an unconventional method that he described as chaotic. I don't know if it's chaotic. The method involves searching text for reoccurring patterns. He and several of his followers murdered the Avery family, fellow members of his cult, for which he was convicted and sentenced to death. Lundgren was then executed in 2006. Alright. Sorry about that. I just wanted a general summary of like who this guy is. I found him looking up, okay, so there's this really, really stupid video of Rose McGowan. If any of you guys remember Charmed, she is Piper or Prue, can't remember which one. And she did some stupid fucking interview where she's going on, and then she uses the line, "Ohio is a cult." Like, if I can, I will find that video real quick. It was just such a weird fucking line. I will have to find the timestamp of it later. It's really funny to me. But in looking up Ohio is a cult, it brought up a list of Ohio is a cult. It was Paige. Of course it wasn't Piper or Prue. Paige is the extra one. There are 3 sisters, and then there's an extra sister who's like half white lighter. And I believe Paige is the half white lighter one because she was also the fake redhead, and that used to piss me off because my grandpa loved her so much. In Ohio, Phoebe? No, Phoebe is the God damn it. Phoebe, Piper, Prue, and Paige. That's all 4 of them. Alyssa Milano is not the nicest person from what I hear, but I probably wouldn't be either if I was on the fucking Charmed crew, because that whole show is just rife with the dumbest of problems and like the dumbest of writing a lot of times. But hello, Tommy Oliver. Thank you so much for being here. But worst CGI. Oh my god, it was up there. Okay, so I love me some Buffy because some of the writing in Buffy was amazing, but like it was just a bad spin-off from Buffy, but like a worse spin-off from anything else it could have been. I don't know. I hated Charmed. I watched Charmed with my grandpa because he loved it, but he was just creeping on the girls because that's what my grandpa did. He was one of them. Either way, back to the true crime. Jeffrey Lundgren is the leader of the Latter-day Saints revival, or no, it's not like revival. The Reorganized Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the RLDS, which was a church in Kirtland, Ohio, which is a subsection of Cleveland. And I'm going to do Haunted Ohio for Halloween, so we're starting with a cult leader. Yay! Might as well keep it homegrown, right? So for starters... Oh, that picture right there, that one, I'll explain that one as we get up to it. I'm not in my Streamlabs, so I can't see what's up on what pictures are coming up. I probably should have slowed those down or maybe even controlled them. I'm trying out something new, okay? Stick with me. Jeffrey Lundgren was born on May 3rd, 1950 in Independence, Missouri, and grew up as a member of the Reorganized Church of Latter-day Saints of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the RLDS. According to Lundgren, supported by some of his former neighbors, he was severely abused as a child, particularly by his father. He was, by most accounts, a loner when he was in middle school and high school. Lundgren became an expert hunter when he began to spend time with his father as a teenager. The pair would go on hunting trips, and Lundgren became a gun expert, learning shooting and maintenance techniques. Lundgren enrolled in Central Missouri State University and spent time at a house that was specially built for RLDS youth. While at the house, he became friends with Alice Keeler and Keith Johnson Keeler, who had also been abused by her father, quickly bonded with Lundgren, and the two became lovers. The couple married in 1970, and Lundgren enlisted in the United States Navy. And on December 2nd, 1970, the couple's first child, a boy, was born. By 1974, Keeler was pregnant for a second time. Prior to receiving an honorable discharge from the Navy at the end of his first term of duty, Lundgren sought an early release by arguing that his presence was necessary for the sustainability of his family. He was denied an early release for reasons that were non-necessary according to the military recommendations. Lundgren received an honorable discharge days before his 4-year enlistment was completed. His second son was born soon afterward. Lundgren and his new family settled in San Diego, California after his discharge, but economic problems began to set in, and the Lundgrens moved back to Missouri. In 1979, Keeler gave birth to a third child, a daughter. People close to the couple claimed that Lundgren seemed frustrated about the family's money problems and was generally tired of his wife, and he alleged he became abusive after the birth of his daughter. According to hospital records, his wife was hospitalized for a ruptured spleen, which may have been caused by Lundgren pushing her into a closet door handle. In 1980, the couple had their fourth child, another boy. In 1987, Lundgren was dismissed as a lay minister by the RLDS Church. While Lundgren was living in a church-owned home in Kirtland, Ohio, he volunteered as a tour guide at the RLDS Church's historic Kirtland Temple next door. In this capacity, he began to teach the concept of dividing the word, known as chiastic interpretation, or chiasmus. Alrighty. I should have googled that word because I know I read it a couple times and was like, the fuck is this? Chiastic. Okay. So chi, not
chiastic.
not chia. Okay. Chiastic interpretation, or chiasmus, to interpretate scriptures. Lundgren falsely claimed to have created chiastic interpretation. The foundation was that in everything created by God, the right side is a mirror image, and therefore scripture had to be interpreted using the same method. Lundgren cited the Kirtland temple as an example because the right side was a mirror image of the left side. To apply this concept to scripture, it takes a sentence from scripture. If the sentences before and after are constant, the center sentence is the truth. When the sentence before and after conflict, the center sentence is a lie. Oh my God, why are we doing math while No. 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 This is not... That sounds like a German... Like... Why? That is so complicated for no reason. To apply this concept to scripture. These teachings of scriptural interpretation by Lundgren attracted followers. He claimed that he moved to Ohio because the word Ohio is chiasmic. In 1987, Lundgren was asked to leave the Kirtland house, and his job as a tour guide was terminated due to suspicions of theft. In 1987, Lundgren and his family moved to a rented farm home located at 8671 Chardon Road on U.S. Route 6, east of Ohio State Route 306. Oh, I never that is. At the time, some followers started to move into his home. Those who moved into the house were Kevin Curie, Richard Brand, Greg Winship, Sharon Butchley, Daniel Kraft, Debbie Orlays, Ronald and Susan Luft, Dennis and Tanya Patrick, Dennis and Cheryl Avery maintain their own residence. That's a lot of fucking people to move into one house. Some of his followers had known Lundgren in Missouri, while others were drawn to Lundgren at the Kirtland Temple. While Lundgren was living at the farmhouse, he began to practice methods that were consistent with Robert Lifton's criteria for mind control. For example, cult members were forbidden to talk amongst themselves. Hi, Inu. Thank you so much for being here. I hope you're doing great. I'm doing okay. Right now we are talking about Jeffrey Lundgren, who was a cult leader in Ohio in the late 1980s. I'm distracting myself with sugar. While Lundgren was living at the farmhouse, he began to practice methods which were consistent with Robert Lifton's criteria for mind control. For example, cult members were forbidden to talk amongst themselves. Doing so was a sin called murmuring. Lundgren would eavesdrop on cult members to cause them to believe that he could read their minds. On April 23, 1988, a neighbor told Kirtland police officer Ron Adolstik that she suspected that a cult was living at the farmhouse, and that Lundgren's son warned the neighbor's children that the earth would open up and demons would emerge on May 15th. On April 23, 1988, a former cult member referred to by the FBI called Kirtland police and reported a conspiracy by the cult to take over the Kirtland Temple. Kirtland's police chief, Dennis T. Yarbrough, did not believe the informant's information, and on May 2nd, 1988, confronted Lundgren at the Kirtland police station. When Lundgren left, he said that he neutralized the situation by warning Lundgren that there were complaints about gunfire on Lundgren's property. Lundgren went back to his followers and called off the temple's takeover planned for May 3rd because he had purportedly spoken to a higher power. A higher power by quite literally the police. Kirtland's police initiated surveillance of Lundgren's residence and church-owned properties. In September 1988, a second informant came forward after Officer Adonsek cultivated the informant and made contact with the FBI and the ATF. The FBI initiated a domestic terrorism investigation. On October 10, 1988, the day that Lundgren was excommunicated from the RLDS church, There was a thunderstorm at the south end of Kirtland. When the sun emerged, a large rainbow appeared to the east. Lundgren told his followers that the rainbow signified the opening of the 7 seals. This motherfucker did not. He did not go with the 7 seals. You were full of shit. God, that man was full of himself. Lundgren and his family soon abandoned the group, and he began to feel a call to teach the Bible in the way that he understood it. He formed his own splinter group soon after, where the membership... Oh, thank you so much for the tier 1 sub. Thank you so much for donating a tier 1 sub, Inu. Because I almost said to... thank you, Dami. He didn't even bring Lilith, just the 7 seals, which is even better. It's like, clearly he didn't know his Bible well enough. This group was largely composed of conservative RFLDs members who believed God communicated through regular revelations, though some members admitted that they claimed to have revelations even though they did not. The conservatives, who were also opposed to more liberal rights for women in the church, which contributed to their decision to join the new sect. Lundgren's wife Alice told followers that she had once had a revelation that she would meet an important leader of the RLDS church. She was later concluded that this allegiance revelation referred to her husband Lundgren. Of course it did. Lundgren began to offer Bible study sessions at his home. There he would dominate the sessions and intimidate anyone who did not agree with his interpretation of the scripture. Lundgren would later encourage others to intimidate those who disagreed as well, seeking to convince his sect that he was God's last prophet. He asked for money from his supporters, some of whom would give them their life's earnings. Don't they always do that? Isn't that the trait of a good cult leader? Give me your money. I'll sell you bathwater. Lundgren then proclaimed that he had received a call from God to move to Kirtland, where he and his supporters would soon witness the second coming of Christ on May 3rd, Lundgren's birthday, no year specified, at the Kirtland Temple. He told his followers that it would be necessary to seize the temple by force and hold it for the monumentous event. The conspiracy involved burglarized adjacent church homes and committed murder as part of the takeover. Lundgren called the land around the temple the vineyards, which had been redeemed or cleansed for him and his followers to take the temple. By this time, 7 of Lundgren's 12 followers had moved into the family house. The remaining 5 were members of Dennis Avery's family. Lundgren felt that the Averys were committing a sin by not living in his home. The Avery family father, Dennis, sold his Missouri house in order to move his family to Ohio. Dennis Avery believed in Jeffrey completely and trusted him. Jeffrey, however, considered Dennis Avery to be weak, and when Dennis was no longer useful to Jeffrey, he had begun talking about Dennis behind his back. Jeffrey often used Dennis as a scapegoat for their troubles, even though Dennis was one of the leading contributors. Dennis Avery decided to set apart from a relatively small amount of money for his family's use with a bank account. Once again, Lundgren considered this a sin because Lundgren wanted all of his followers' money to be given to him exclusively. Yeah, this dude's fucking nuts. Like, this dude's actually nuts. In the time, Lundgren convinced his followers that he had to seize the temple, from which he had stolen about $40,000, and to kill anyone who stood in their way. He changed his mind, however, and started telling his followers that they had to kill a family of 5 instead if they wanted to see God. As punishment for their disloyalty, he chose the Averys. At some point, he referred to the slaughter of the Avery family as pruning the vineyard. That's so disturbing. On April 10th, 1989, in Kirtland, Lundgren ordered 2 of his followers to dig a pit at the barn. When that picture comes back up, of the man standing next to a big old hole filled with water. That's the pit we're talking about. That picture that's up right now is Lundgren in prison in 2006, right before he was executed. Hi, Robbie. Thank you so much for being here. Well, some of these people aren't alive. About 5-member family is not alive. Yay! Thank you so much for being here. I gotta make it dark somehow. Lundgren ordered 2 of his followers to dig a pit in the barn in anticipation of burying the Avery's bodies there. The expectation was that there would be 5 bodies buried in the pit. Lundgren told the rest of his followers, including the Averys, that they would go on a wilderness trip. On April 17th, he rented a motel room and had dinner with all of his followers. He then called his group's men into his room and he questioned each as to the purpose of their action. All of the men assured Lundgren that they were with him to do sacrifice. Dennis Avery was not invited to the meeting in Lundgren's bedroom. Good God, that's so creepy. Oh, Lundgren, Mr. Party Man, that is the picture of him in 89 after he was arrested, or in 90 after he was arrested. There are going to be a lot of pictures that pop up, and I'll slowly explain all of them as they come up, but I can't. Right there, that is the Avery family. That is the 5 members that are all murdered by Lundgren and his cult. According to followers' admissions, Lundgren later went inside the barn with a church member named Ron Luff, luring Dennis Avery into a place where the other men awaited by asking him for help with the equipment for a camping trip. Luff attempted to render Avery unconscious with a stun gun, but due to a malfunction, a stun bullet struck Avery but failed to knock him out. Avery was then gagged and dragged to the place where Lundgren awaited. He was shot twice in the back, dying almost instantly. To mask the sound of the gun, a chainsaw was left running. Luff then told Avery's wife Cheryl that her husband needed help. She was gagged like her husband, but also had duct tape put over her eyes and dragged to Lundgren. She was shot 3 times, twice in the breast and once in the abdomen. Her body lay next to her husband's. Why shoot her in the tits? Why shoot her in the tits? The Avery family, yes. This is the story of Jeffrey Lundgren, the Ohio cult leader that killed 5 of his members. Apparently, quite literally, just because they were trying to save a little bit of money and didn't move into his house. Stephen Avery? Fuck you. Avery was then shot in the tits and once in the abdomen. Her body lay next to her husband's. The Avery's 15-year-old daughter, Trina, was shot twice in the head. The first shot entered but ricocheted off her skull, missing her brain, but the second killed her instantly. God damn. Fuck you. Well, I don't know. Fuck all of you, because I didn't get the reference right away. Jesus. Oh, the Making a Murderer guy. No relation, but still. Yeah, I know, dude. Okay, the little girl was so lucky that it totally missed. Yeah, okay, so there's a small bit of distance in between the brain and the skull with the cerebral fluid. And I guess if you enter that bitch at just the right angle, it'll mostly hit the fluid and travel within the fluid and miss the brain. But, dude, but then you shot her again anyway. Like, there's no legitimate reason to fucking... Oh. I mean... No, okay. Keep in mind this is a 15-year-old girl, so she's not fully formed, all that shit. It's actually more common than you think, especially if you have a smaller caliber gun. And if he's shooting everyone twice, he probably doesn't have like a 45. He's probably got a 22 or something. 13-year-old Becky Avery was shot twice and left to die, while 6-year-old Karen Avery was shot in the chest and head. The barn where the incident took place was demolished on November 13, 2007. On April 18th, 1989, the day after the murders, officers coincidentally came to Lundgren's farm to talk to him. After the encounter, Lundgren became paranoid about being caught and left Ohio with the rest of his cult, moving south to West Virginia. As months went by and nothing happened, Lundgren became disillusioned. He and his family moved to California, leaving the rest of the surviving cult members behind in West Virginia, which is, yeah, genius. Make your cult members commit a fucking crime and then just leave their asses. Just ditch them. That's genius. 9 months after the killing, on January 3rd, 1990, a tip from an informant led police back to the long-abandoned farm where the 5 bodies of the Avery family were uncovered. So it took almost a year for them to find the bodies. That sucks. The Lundgrens became fugitives, media attention increased, and police began to track the cult members, with the FBI joining in the manhunt. Eventually, Lundgren's abandoned followers were found back east, and they helped catch him and his family. 13 members of Lundgren's sect were arrested in early 1990, including Lundgren and his wife. Jeffrey Lundgren was given the death penalty. Alice Lundgren received 5 life sentences, 140 years to life for conspiracy, complicity, and kidnapping, while their son Damon was sentenced to 120 years to life. Ronald Luff, the key planner and facilitator of the murders with the Lundgren, was sentenced to 170 years to life. That's a picture of him in 2006, right before he was executed. There will be another picture coming up here of 3 or 4 people standing in front of a judge. That is them right when they got arrested in 1990. They arrested most of the cult members. This right here, the woman speaking, is his wife. The one holding the gun to her head is his wife, talking about him in court. Apparently I'm not allowed to show the video to that because it's heavily copyrighted, because the second I tried to even do a watch party for it, it canceled me out, so I know better. Damon was sentenced to 120 years to life. Ronald Luff, the key planner and facilitator of the murders of the Lundgren, was sentenced to 170 years to life. Daniel Kraft was sentenced to 50 years to life. 5 of the cult members were released in 2010 or early 2011 after roughly 20 years of incarceration, including pre-trial period. Prosecutor Charles Colson confirmed that the original plea agreements meant that 5 were to be eligible for release at the earliest possible time, but the Ohio State Parole Board had repeatedly denied early requests for the parole by Richard Brand and Greg Winship, both serving 15 years to life, as well as Sharon Butchley, Debbie Olares, and Susan Luff. All were serving 7 to 25 years. Lundgren's followers, Katherine Johnson, Tanya Patrick, and Dennis Patrick, were determined not to have been involved in the murders, and each received a year sentence for obstruction of justice. Holy fuck. Oh, so, like, some of them are out. That's, uncomfortable knowledge. I don't like that any of them are out if I'm gonna be totally... I get that even some of them might not have had anything to do with the murder at all, but, like, you had something to do with the murder if, one, you hid him for so long. But just, damn. Life in max security is so much crueler than the death penalty. Not really. Not for a lot of people, because for some people, like, if you're on death row, then you're just in your own little fucking cell, getting pretty much whatever you want and not being bothered in general pop like you would in any other of these prisons. Like, the people that are sentenced to 50 and under, and especially the people who got out, all had to deal with general pop and probably had a worse time than the people sitting on death row. And realistically, only one of them was sitting on death row, and I think he probably got the better end of the stick, considering, like, his wife got 5 life sentences and their son got 120 years to life. Oh yeah, no, he, like, The dude doesn't even have the look of a crazy dude. He's got the look of a fucking scam artist. Like, that dude looks like a scammer. That dude looks like a scam artist. He doesn't look crazy. He doesn't look like a real cult leader. He doesn't give off Jim Jones vibes. He gives off, like, ripping off your nan vibes. At least that's what I get from it. Oh yeah, no, you'd be surprised. You can buy a lot of, like, simple pleasures. In some American jails, they even have cell phones and tablets you can rent so you can watch YouTube videos and shit like that. You'd be surprised how much it isn't that bad, and sometimes in some prisons it's, like, super bad. You can't even get regular feeding. Like, that's the thing. Like, when you're being put in places like solitary, you're usually given a whole lot more fucking leeway than people on Gen Pop. People in Gen Pop are treated like absolute dog shit, and a whole lot of them don't fucking deserve it. I mean, yeah, he's definitely a fucking dollar store Jim Jones. That is exactly the vibe he gives off. Ohio Supreme Court said October 24, 2006 as Lundgren's execution date. According to the State Attorney General Office, as of August 2006, he had exhausted his appeals. On October 17, 2006, Judge Gregory L. Frost issued an order temporarily delaying Lundgren's execution. Lundgren attempted to join a lawsuit with 5 other death row inmates challenging the state's death penalty law, claiming that because of his obesity, the lethal injection would be particularly painful and amount to cruel and unusual punishment. The man who shot and killed 5 members of his little cult because they didn't give him all of their money. It was like $5,000 they set aside, and you murdered him over $5,000, let's be honest. And you think that the death penalty, because you a fat ass, is cruel and unusual punishment. That's lovely. That's adorable. That's precious. State Attorney General Jim Petro appealed to the United States Court of Appeals for the Sixth Circuit in Cincinnati. The Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals issued an order allowing the execution to go forward. The U.S. Supreme Court released a last-minute request to stop his execution, and Governor Bob Taft also denied clemency. On October 24, 2006, Jeffrey Lundgren was executed at the Southern Ohio Correctional Facility in Lucasville. I know, fucking for real. What? He would have been absolutely fine. He could have continued with his little cult if he had not killed his own cult members for being, a douche. But yeah, just literally for like holding on $5,000 in 1990, which is not a shit ton. Betsy DeVoy. Oh, no. This asshole wishes he was a David Koresh, but no, it's more like a Jim Jones. Like, they're much more Kool-Aid cult than, like... Okay, hold on. I'm going to read another excerpt, and you're going to get a different look on him a little bit than just the general Wikipedia. Ohio executed a religious cult leader Tuesday for the murder of a family of 5 who were taken one at a time to a barn, bound, and shot to death. The youngest was just a girl of 7 years old. Jeffrey Lundgren, 56, died by injection at 10:26 a.m. on the Southern Ohio Correctional Facility for the deaths of the Avery family. I profess my love for God, my family, for my children, for Kathy, his wife, which is not his wife, it was originally Alice, and she was also sitting in jail, and he went and remarried another woman. I am because you are, Lundgren said in his final statement. The evidence against Lundgren was compelling. Upset by what he thought was the Avery family's lack of faith, arranged a dinner hosted by cult members. Afterward, he and his followers led the Averys one by one, the father first, young Karen last, to their deaths while the others unknowingly cleaned up after dinner. A chainsaw was used to muffle the gunfire. So imagine your dad being lured out, shot, and then your mom being lured out, shot, and then your oldest sister being lured out, shot, and you have no idea because you're cleaning the table and there's a chainsaw going on. And then you're lured out and you're shot, and the last thing you think is, oh God, my youngest sibling has no idea. Like, that's pretty fucked. I mean, okay, the David Koresh and the Seven Seals reference is accurate, but keep in mind, David Koresh was Seventh-day Adventist, and they were reactionary, apocalyptic, as opposed to fundamental Latter-day Saints, which Jim Jones had a small offshoot of the Latter-day Saints and them. Chain shot him to muffle gunshots. I mean, yeah, exactly, right? I can in fact talk to God. Lundgren argued at his trial in 1990 that he was the prophet of God and therefore not worthy of the death penalty. So that they forget that that's also part of his fucking argument. I mean, yeah, no, that's actually, okay, it is semi-accurate and semi-not accurate. The Waco folks weren't hurting anyone, but David Koresh himself was. A lot of them don't want to talk about the relationship he was having with some really young girls and shit like that. So, no cult is totally innocent kind of shit. Chainsaw was used to muffle the gunfire. I can in fact talk to God. Lundgren argued at his trial in 1990 that he was a prophet of God and therefore not worthy of the death penalty. It's not a figment of my imagination that I can in fact talk to God, that I hear his voice, he had told the jurors. I am a prophet of God. I am even more than a prophet. Just to put you into this dude's fucking headspace. He was convicted of killing Dennis Avery, 49, his wife, Cheryl, 46, and their daughters Trina, 15, Rebecca, 13, and 7-year-old Karen. Lundgren formed the cult with about 20 members in the northeast Ohio town of Kirtland, which is near Cleveland, after he was dismissed in 1987 as a lay minister of the Reorganized Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, an offshoot of the Mormon Church. Lundgren said that God commanded him through interpretation of scriptures to kill the Avery family, who moved from Missouri in 1987 to follow his teachings. Now, I gotta stress again that it wasn't just his own special interpretation. This asshole was literally going, this script says this, empty script, this script says this, if this script equals the script after it, it's a true statement. If this script does not equal this script after it, it's a lie. He's doing fucking math to equal what is true in the Bible and what is not. So he's like jumping some serious fucking hoops to get to some of the things he's getting to. So, like, I wonder how much of that is a load of bullshit for him to try to, like, plead insanity. But he never even pleads insanity, which is really fucking strange. He literally does hold up to the I am more than a prophet fucking argument. Either way. Lundgren said God commanded him, though interpretation of scriptures, to kill the Avery family, who had moved from Missouri in 1987 to follow his teachings. I cannot say that God was wrong. I cannot say I am sorry. I did what God commanded me to do in the physical act, Lundgren told a jury in 1990 in a bid to spare his life. So, again, he's not apologetic whatsoever. He's not like, hi, I misinterpreted something. He's not giving a literal reason. He's like, God told me to do it, therefore I am just. So that's where I get more of a Jim Jones feel. It definitely has more of a Jim Jones feel myself. That's my thing. Absolutely no remorse. Whereas in a legitimate sense, David Koresh didn't feel like he was doing anything wrong with their lifestyle, but also at many times tried to work with the police. This asshole at every turn every follow through is just trying to cover his ass, is what it feels like to me. Appeals failed. Lundgren's attorney had tried to put off the execution, arguing that he should be allowed to join a lawsuit challenging Ohio's use of lethal injection as cruel and unusual punishment, which I'm sorry. What were they doing that was actually wrong, though? Okay, there are a couple of different deep dives that go into the Waco siege and what they were actually doing. One of the biggest things that got the ATF called on them to begin with was the fact that Koresh was running guns. So, one, he was committing a huge felony of running illegal guns, illegal gun parts, scraping off serial numbers. All of that shit was dead ass accurate. He and the family were known for acquiring and de-acquiring guns very easily and off the books. Besides that, they kind of weren't letting some people go. They kind of were keeping some people captive. They kind of weren't letting some people leave with their children. So there's a lot in between the hearsay of what the FBI and the ATF says versus the literal truth from some of their survivors and who's filling a narrative and all that. But in general, Koresh wasn't innocent by any means, but he wasn't doing nearly as much harm as a lot of other people. There is speculation that he was having underage marriages, so like that's also on the table of some of the bad shit he did. But yeah, to me this feels more Jim Jonesy. They said his execution had more of a chance of being painful because he was diabetic and overweight at 275 pounds, which to me just sounds like use more drugs, fuck you. Also, you killed a family of 5. I'd kind of want your death to be a little bit painful, right? I mean, wholeheartedly, David Koresh's story goes up in smoke, quite literally. Late Monday, the 6th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals in Cincinnati issued an order allowing the execution to go forward. The U.S. Supreme Court refused a last-minute request to stop his execution Tuesday, and Governor Bob Taft denied clemency. Lundgren was careful to make sure no one would be looking for the Averys. Before the murder, he directed Cheryl Avery to write her family and inform them that they were moving to Wyoming and would provide contact information when they got settled. Literally, okay, so he did all kinds of shit to try to cover up his tracks, especially beforehand. The case was cracked 8 months later when a dissident cult member, upset that his wife had been selected to become Lundgren's second wife. See, that's why you don't leave your cult members, because if you're going to try to control them from afar, you can't take on a second wife. Oh, hey, Chief, it's okay, you just missed, like, the entire story of what's gone on so far. We're talking about Jeffrey Lundgren. He's a cult leader from Ohio, who killed the entire Avery family. I mean, this dude's definitely a low IQ fucking cult leader. He is not the smartest of cult leaders. It definitely seemed like he was more interested in money, and then when he went to try to go cult leadery, he just kept fucking up. Like, he would have made a better mob boss with how well he hid these bodies. Yeah, no, it's creepy lo-fi. Oh, he's definitely a what not to do idiots guy when it comes to cult leadery. Again, he maybe would have made a better mob boss. He hid the bodies well enough until a cult member fucking told the cops. But like, also, you went off and pissed off your cult members, so nah. And then you pick a second wife instead of just luring in like another person to be a second wife. Yeah, I mean, I think some people would make better kinds of different criminals, if that makes sense. Like, if I could just remove him from being a cult leader and drop him into a mob family called Lundgren. Yeah, just rename them. Just name them Ligrenetti, Ligranudi, Ligranda. I don't know. Capo the Tupi Capos of the Norwegian mob. I mean, the Scandinavian crime syndicate. Why can't there be a Scandinavian crime syndicate, eh? That's a fucking horrible Italian. Leave me alone. Tipped off authorities January 4th, 1990. The bodies were found. 13 cult members were charged in the case, including Lundgren's wife Alice, now 55, and their son Damon, now 35, both serving life prison terms. Police Sergeant Ronald Angeles, who led the investigation into the cult killings, compared Lundgren's mind control tactics to those used by other cult leaders, such as David Koresh, Jim Jones, and Charles Manson. Yes, Carlos Manson. They used the same method on their followers. Jeff wasn't the first, and he won't be the last. Thank you, NBC News. Don't know when it will come up, but I'm currently looking at the picture of them in court. The little one being his wife, the middle one being the son, the big one being fucking him. But yeah, so no, like almost everyone else is out of fucking prison, but this dude. This dude got killed, his son's still in prison, the wife's out of prison actually. It's literally referred to as the Kirtland Massacre. God, the Murderpedia is so long. It's every fucking appeal. As temple guide, Lundgren solicited and allegedly kept contributions from visitors. The temple bookstore noted a shortage of funds. According to the court documents, officials believe he ultimately embezzled between $25,000 and up to $40,000 from the RLDS temple. According to Cleveland's News Herald, he was fired and the family evicted from their lodgings in 1987. But Lundgren had started the cult of his own by that point. So, like, he was already very well known for embezzling and shit like that. In December 1989, disgruntled cult member Larry Keith Johnson went to authorities in Kansas City, Missouri, and told them about the Avery murders. According to court documents, Johnson was angry. His wife Catherine had been selected by Lundgren to be his second wife, the polygamous tradition. Johnson drew up a map of the barn showing where they were buried. According to the News Herald, the Associated Press reported that the Avery's bodies were discovered the first week of January 1990, setting off a nationwide manhunt for Lundgren and his remaining followers. Agents with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, which was very common for them to be dealing with, like, cults around that time, which I find very interesting. I don't know if that was, like, their only way to get in, or, like, why the FBI wasn't more involved, but it's always the ATF going in on cults, which is always interesting. Oh, yeah, the Magic Undercade. Oh God, I can't speak. Magic Underpants Brigade. I love the Mormons. The Mormons have all kinds of weird tradition. The magic underwear, the poop hole loophole, the embezzle everything from your boss.
Do you speak it?
I don't speak it, okay? I cannot speak English. I cannot speak Mormon. I can't speak most shit. I'm trying. Agents with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms and local police caught up with Lundgren on January 7th, 1990 at a motel in between San Diego and the Mexican border. According to the Los Angeles Times, Lundgren and his wife Alice had been arranging for her parents to pick up their 3 youngest children while they planned to flee the area with their son Damon and a group of members, Katherine Johnson and Daniel Kraft. Police seized an AR-15 rifle, 3 handguns, an assortment of hunting knives, and camping and survival gear in the group's possession at the time of their arrest. So, like, these motherfuckers were ready to, like, hide over the border. Going in with an AR-15, 3 handguns, and an assorting of hunting knives. Between Lundgren's wife and son, 10 other members of the cult were indicted on charges related to the murder of the 5 family members of the Avery family. According to the News Herald, most would eventually plead guilty and cooperate with the prosecution in exchange for lighter sentences. In August 1990, Jeffrey Lundgren went on trial with prosecutor Steve LaTorre telling the News Herald, "We keep waiting for the insanity defense, but it never came." So like I said before, I would expect the insanity plea, but this guy never made the insanity plea. NBC News reported that the trial Lundgren was unrepentant and resolute in his convictions, telling the jury, "It's not a figment of my imagination that I can in fact talk to God, and I am a prophet of God. I am even more than a prophet." Hi, Ragtag. Oh God, yeah. Oh, okay. I have come across a good couple cult members. Almost anyone who was in the Mormon church and is left will tell you that they're a cult. I've met a good number of Seventh-day Adventists, family of my own that are part of like Jehovah's Witness and have left, and herald to the fact that like most sectionalized and marginalized Christian groups are just hardcore cults that are really, really good at keeping their mouths shut. There are more people of the Manson family than people know. There are more people in this cult that people know. Like, you just want to... See, I see how it is. You just want someone to piss in your soup. That's how it goes. I know, right? If you're a prophet, then go do good work. Oh God, yeah. Oh God, the Jehovah's Witnesses are very, very, very... a lot of them are scared people who don't want to lose their family. Much like Mormons, they're scared people who don't want to lose their family. Oh yeah, no, if it's just a random dude on the street, never trust that. Those are the scariest ones. Random people on the street are the ones who, you know, just stab you on accident or tell you a lie or tell you the absolute truth. You never know. I am a prophet of God. I am even more than a prophet. On August 29th, after deliberating for 2 hours, the jury found Lundgren guilty on 5 accounts each of aggravated murder and kidnapping. A few weeks later, he was sentenced to death. And in addition to Jeffrey Lundgren, his wife Alice and his son Damon would also be sentenced to life in prison on aggravated murder and kidnapping charges, as would Ronald Luff and Daniel Kraft, who were in the barn when the Averys were shot dead. Richard Brand and Greg Winship pleaded guilty and were paroled in 2010 after spending nearly 20 years behind bars. As were cult members Shannon Bulchley and Susan Luff and Deborah Olirez. Katherine Johnson was sentenced to a year in prison after pleading guilty to obstruction of justice and were released in 1991 after serving 7 months. So like some of these people didn't even have to spend an entire year in jail, even though they were quite literally accomplices to murder. I get they were cult members and probably not super, you know, aware of their own responsibility, but you were complicit in murder. There's so much to this. After exhausting all legal appeals, God damn it, I can't speak today. After exhausting all legal appeals, Jeffrey Lundgren was executed by lethal injection on October 24, 2006. Fox reported that at the same time as his final statement was said, "I profess my love for God, my family, my children, for my second wife, Kathy. I am because you are." Yeah, also, again, I love that because they don't touch on that either time. But another part I was reading elsewhere, he left his wife, Alice, in prison and remarried some woman named Catherine and had 2 more kids by her for the 30 years that he was in prison. So, like, fuck him for that, too. Like, your wife literally helped you kill someone and you were like, nah, fuck this bitch. But, like, yay. What about his love for the Averys? Well, what love? You mean the love for their money? That's all this was about. Money. Dude's MK Ultra programming must have gone ham. Dude, I mean, he's one of those people that would have claimed that he was MK Ultra, like, trained and never once ever met someone in the FBI to even have that shit. that was the picture of the pit just a second ago of where they were buried in the barn. Didn't see the bus before he threw. I know, right? That poor woman never saw the bus she was thrown under, not once. But yeah. Okay, so I'm sorry this one's a little bit short. I was expecting it to be a little bit longer, but I was gonna read the entire Murderpedia, but then I realized that the Murderpedia is literally just all of his fucking appeals, and it's just straight court documents, and at some point it's just frustrating to read. So I'm actually gonna cut it early tonight. I have some cooking I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go make bulgogi tonight. So we're gonna raid someone. I was gonna game, but we have to run to the store. So what the fuck? Alright, well apparently I'm using this screen. And I'm all the way over here. If you like my top, please make sure to check out my Etsy. This is going to be listed after I go off tonight. Please make sure to go to my Fansly. I'm going to be uploading, or I am already uploading a bunch of my hardcore content. And make sure to come back tomorrow because I'm going to make up for the time I didn't get to do with 3 hours of Dragon Age 4 if I can get away with it. So yeah, make sure to have an awesome night and stay for the stream or stay for the raid, please. And always have a great night. Closer.